All right. Well, welcome everybody to the third episode of the Airborne Podcast. We're here with Winter Vinecki, 2022 Olympian and world record holder. She just did her first triples on snow, and we're running a little first triple podcast episode.
Yeah, kind of an impromptu episode. We were kind of planning on getting inside Winter's brain whenever she did that first triple, and we didn't know when it was going to come. So what's the date today? November 24th?
It's the 25th. I think my milk's expiring today.
Okay, November 25th. And that's the day. That's the day of the infamous first triple. It's something you've been looking forward to for years. Like, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great right now. I might be sore in the morning, but as of right now, I'm still feeling good. Still kind of riding that high a little bit, but definitely ready to go to bed after that.
Yeah, so like for me, whenever I do like a big trick or something new, I notice that like I have so much energy, so jacked up, so much adrenaline while I'm doing it. And then once I get home and relax for a little bit, then I get crazy tired. Are you kind of feeling that fatigue setting?
I got a question to add on top of that. So I noticed that when I do a new trick or my first triples, I had the super high adrenaline rush, and then after a few hours, I had a crash and I got a headache. Are you experiencing that just from, it's not from hitting your head, it's just from the adrenaline rush to lack of adrenaline? How are you feeling?
Not the like headache at all, but definitely like the kind of downside of that. So I was still very awake and in it, and then I did 3 triples today, and then afterwards was still like very hyped up, excited, had a lot of energy. And then I started to feel like I started to drop down. I like laid in bed when I got home after I took all my stuff off and just laid there. And then I felt like I was about to fall asleep, but I was like, I should probably go eat, do some stretching, do a little bit of stuff before tomorrow. But now I'm getting close to the point where I feel like my brain is like, has been on overdrive a little bit the last couple hours. And so it's starting to get to the point where I'm ready to just think of nothing and go to sleep.
All right, so let's dive into the whole day. You know, we started out with some doubles, I assume, and how did those go for you?
They were good enough. I feel like the hardest part about getting ready to do the first triples is trying to still stay focused when you're doing those like basic stuff, when you know the big stuff is coming. So I did 3 leg tucks to start, and with that, it was like trying to just make sure my takeoff mainly was good. So my first one, my takeoff was pretty good, but I was too fast, so like slapped back the landing. So Vlad was like, all right, everything was good, but go do another and make the landing better. And then the next 2, I was like, okay, one more maybe, and then we're gonna go, one more, and then we're gonna go. So they were good enough, not my like best jumps, but then we went to go speed check. I did 1 speed check, and then the sight went dark.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to talk about because you've been looking forward to this day for a couple of years, putting in all that work, and then it's kind of like, of course, something else goes wrong that's completely out of anything you could have anticipated. Big power outage at the site today. All the lights went down right in the middle of our session. And honestly, I thought that might take you out of it and make you wait till another day, because that kind of like mental distraction in one of the biggest training sessions of your life where you're trying to make a huge jump, I thought maybe Vlad would pull you. I thought maybe you'd pull yourself. And then, right as soon as the lights came back on, you were right back up there getting ready to go. How did that affect you? How did that affect your decision making? How did it make you feel?
So I feel like there were so many factors that had to go right in order to be able to go today. So Vlad and I talked about this, our coach, and he was like, okay, you have to be feeling good. And if you're not feeling good, you have to tell me. Like, we are not going if you're not mentally, physically ready to go. And so when I woke up this morning, everything was feeling great. I had a great day of training yesterday. So I was kind of banking on going today, unless there was something big that got in the way, which weather,
like a power outage, maybe?
Like a power outage maybe, but also weather, like in our sport, is a huge thing. And I was kind of watching the weather, and there was some snow and a little bit of wind, but it was supposed to die down. I kind of just got in the mindset that it was going to be good to go. Sure enough, we got to the site. Weather was good. Jump was for the most part good. You guys were kind of talking a little bit about how something was a little different on the top, but I was like, you know what?
We were trying to keep that away from you.
Yeah, you guys were trying hard, but I was like, I know about it. Like, I could tell you guys were trying to keep that from me because you were like talking to each other about how there's a little bang on the top, but you like weren't trying to be super loud about it. But I wasn't too worried about that because I was like, I'm gonna go as long as it's close enough. But then when that power went out, it was out for like 20 minutes or so.
25, I think.
Yeah, so enough where I had done 1 speed check. I was like mentally like, okay, we're doing this. And then I was gonna do maybe one more speed check before going. And so the lights went out. I'm standing at the top thinking, are we even gonna be able to go now? Of course, was snowing a decent amount. And Vlad at first almost pulled me because it was snowing too hard. But I was like, by the time I do my speed checks, by the time I do my rides of the jump to get a feel for it, I'm just gonna bank on the snow stopping, basically. And it did. And then the power went out. And so without the power, we were kind of just standing there waiting, hoping it was gonna come back on. And then you had like that thought in the back of your head is, okay, is the power gonna stay on if it does come back on? Or are the lights gonna shut off when somebody's going into these jumps? Because that's what almost happened. Like Connor, our teammate, was almost going into the jump. Like he was about to hot turn to go. And if that would have went off when you're going into these jumps, like you're so screwed. And so I feel like that was a little bit of like a worry in the back of the head, but it turns out the generator ran out of gas or something because somebody did not fill it up before it hit E, which was very frustrating. So I was trying to stay at the top in like this zone where, okay, I don't know if we're gonna 100% still go or not. Like luckily I still had a speed check, but then the lights came back on and I was like, all right, I'm gonna check and then go talk to my coach. I'm assuming we're gonna do another. And he was like, all right, go ride the jump, which pretty much meant speed checks were over, we're riding the jump and going.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like with those type of days when you're doing a new trick or going up to a new jump, you always have this vision in your mind, like it's going to go perfect. I'm going to go do these doubles and I'm going to go do this and the weather's going to be perfect. And it never goes like that. There's always some type of adversity that you find yourself dealing with on those days. And I feel like you just explained that perfectly, where it was going great. Everything was going as well as you could ask for. And then boom, power out. And dealing with that, did it at all in the back of your mind like make you question going up there and doing it, or you were just set on doing it that today and getting it done?
I was pretty set on going today. I already thought about the alternative because when I was standing up in the dark, the alternative is we're not going to go, and then I have to be thinking about this all night again, do this all again tomorrow, do some more jumps, and there's always going to be different factors. And so as long as the lights turned on, the weather was decent where Vlad felt comfortable enough sending me, and the lights were going to stay on. So I kind of just put that to the back of my mind and just refocused on the jumps ahead, because there's always going to be different things that come up. And if it wasn't the lights, maybe tomorrow it's going to be more windy, and then maybe my jumps on double weren't going to go as well, and then that would be stressing me out. And then I would know that there's a day off. So if I didn't do it tomorrow, it would be like another 2 days. So there's always going to be these other factors. And so for me, I was just set on going, and yes, the lights went out. Yes, it was dumping snow for a little bit, but I was kind of just trusting the process. And as I went through the day, to let those things come and go so that I could still stay present on the jump ahead.
All right, so let's go. You've done your speed checks, you've done your rides, power went out, power came back on. You're standing up there about to go. You're not on the gate yet. What was going through your mind while you were standing up there? I was right next to you. I kind of saw you going through your own little routine. What was going on through your mind during that?
So right before I went to go, kind of right before I slid into the gate, did my usual visualization of my jumps and everything. And then one thing that was very nice having you guys up there, because I've trained with you so much, is I like to take my time, and I do not like to be rushed because that stresses me out. And then I would get like a little bit like flustered and not be able to like really just like calm everything down. So in one sense, having the lights out for like 20 minutes was kind of nice because I could just stand up there, even though I had to like tee to that line of not getting too frustrated with not knowing if we were going to go or not. It did allow me to kind of like calm everything down. And then when we were getting ready to go, I didn't feel like super rushed or anything. Luckily we had nice weather, so I didn't have to like find a window with the wind. And I was able to just talk with our top coach Matt for a few minutes and get really focused and centered and calm to be able to slow that heart rate, because it is like right before you slide into that gate, it feels like all those emotions start to like build. And so that's when then all of a sudden you start to get that like, oh crap, I'm about to go off this jump, and you get that like all the like tingly feelings where it's like feels like that flush of like warmth throughout your body. So I feel like I had that, and then taking that extra like 60 seconds to like just take some deep breaths was super helpful to be able to then just slide into the gate. My glasses were kind of fogging up, which is a bit annoying, but luckily, like I said, I didn't feel rushed even from like Vlad. He said to raise my hand when I was good to go. So got everything cleared away. Felt like I was super present so that I could still think about those key words that I needed to going into the jump. And then Vlad raised his hand. I felt like I was good to go. So I did my usual 3 deep breaths and turned the skis.
Well, and you definitely like to, jump at a deliberate pace, right? And going into triples, a lot of times you can be rushed, right? You're trying to get a good wind. You're trying to get a good, space of time to go. And today we kind of were lucky where there were some factors that were definitely driving up stress and driving up, just maybe some of that angst and making you wait and kind of, icing you, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, with the wind and the weather the way it was kind of dealer's choice on when you wanted to go. You were able to kind of choose your moment, pick your spot. One thing I wanted to get into is because it was such a build-up moment, right? Where you've done legitimately 2 years of work leading up into this moment. And then things start to go wrong, right? For me, when I've attacked some of my bigger projects as an athlete, sometimes the more prepared I am, the more nervous I am. Because I know that I put the work in. I know that I've done the requisite, training leading up into it. So for me, my big project would be those quint twists that, I started doing 3 years ago. I'd done 100 on water the year before. I had really put in the time and the effort. And so the thing that keeps coming to mind is they say, I read a statistic once that 90% of car accidents happen within a mile of your home, right? And I always feel that way. It's like, well, now that you've done the work and you're not sending it, you're not hucking it, you've done the work. Did that kind of build that fear where it's like, okay, well, if I've done all this work and all this preparation and then it doesn't go well, now we really have an issue. And I think for me, that can kind of build up. Did you feel any of that kind of build up?
Honestly, no. I didn't have that experience at all because I was so focused on the fact that I did do so many jumps. I did 2 summers, 1 full summer, one kind of, I did like a month of triples 2 summers ago.
1.5 summers, we'll call it.
Yeah, so like 1.5 summers. So I had a ton of numbers and I felt confident in that. And I knew the couple things that I needed to do, like remembering my jumps from water. So the night before I was watching jumps of like on water ramps doing lay tuck fulls. I was visualizing that feeling of like coming off the jump and what that felt like. So I feel like I had that all pretty set in my head that I wasn't too stressed about all the possibilities because yes, there are so many possibilities of how it can go wrong. But one weird thing that I feel like happened too leading up to this is I feel like you start to get weird aerial dreams. Have any of you guys ever had like aerial dreams?
Especially when there's something on the mind for like specific, like a first triple or a first new trick, like I've had some dreams.
So usually, especially like in the off season leading up to doing big stuff on snow, when you start to get stressed, you start to have weird dreams and stuff. And I feel like one that I always have is like I'm trying to get ready for a competition and I'm like missing a ski or somebody steals my ski or I can't like find my boots, like something like that. But I had one dream where I did my first triple and it went fine. And so I was like, well, I mean, if my dream brain...
You had that dream?
I did.
I never have positive dreams.
I know.
Mine are always terrible.
I had never had that with like another trick. And so I was like, man, if my dream brain thinks we're going to be okay, we're just going to trust that and just trust that visualization and all the training that I did so that I can just focus on that good result.
So we've talked about what was leading up to it and all the emotions and what was going on through your head. Tell me, when that hand raised, what happened?
Turned my skis, and as I started going into the jump, when I stood up, that's where it kind of all came back a little bit. So like those feelings of on water. So I was like, okay, I know these feelings. I know what I need to do. Saw the top of the jump. Honestly, didn't even like hesitate for a second with any of that stuff because I felt so comfortable with the feelings that I was feeling and how I was feeling in that moment.
And I've touched on that before. I said, you might feel super fast on those speed checks, but as soon as you stand up and you're in that table looking at the jump, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember how to do this.
And I think it was super helpful that I did so many speed checks too here. From the time we pretty much started doing doubles, I went up at the end of my sessions and did 2 to 3 speed checks on triple, even from like the top, which is too much speed from what I would hit. But then when I went to do my first jump today, I didn't think at all about feeling fast, or I didn't feel like I was coming in too fast, even though my first one was a little quick of a speed. Since I had done so many speed checks, didn't really phase me. So I think that was super helpful. And then when I was coming through the table, obviously any little bumps and stuff you're not gonna feel on your like first ones coming in. You're so like tunnel visioned on those couple things to think about. And then when I went off, felt my feet, saw my skis in front of me, knew I was good enough. And so at that point I was just listening for Vlad's call.
Well, one thing that I want to talk about is, okay, so you've been through the triple, you've done it, right? All the buildup and like all the commitment that you put into it, but it's the first step in like a really long journey for you, right? So do you feel like today was, yeah, I mean, obviously it's always going to be a milestone, right? And doing your first triple backflip, you'll never forget that, right? But with it just being step one and a lot to learn, and I know your goals far are surpass actually just doing a triple. You want to put it down in competitions. You want to win medals. You want to hopefully win the Olympics off the triple, in 2.5 years. And so do you feel like the pressure is a little alleviated, or do you feel like things are just kind of getting started for you? And like, so where's your head at right now that things have calmed down for a few hours?
That's a tough question. I feel like with doing the triples, obviously it was like a huge thing. We talk about this, but we hadn't had an American woman since our teammate Ashley Caldwell do first triples on snow. So there was a couple women who have done it over the years, and we had Ashley pushing the sport. You had like Laura Peel doing triples, and she actually was doing them just in the session before me, so I got to see her do one or two of them.
Yeah, shout out Laura. Always nice to have another lady up there.
Yeah, and so I've been able to see those girls go up and then see how much effort you still have to continue to put in, though. It's not like you do your first one and it's over. Like, even Vlad texted me, he's like, all right, get ready for tomorrow, we're gonna do some more. Like, this is just step one. And even though it's kind of like step one already halfway up a mountain, it's almost like a little bit of a false summit, because there is so much more I want to do. And even if after I landed that first one, I was super stoked and excited to get that first one over with. But then in my brain, I'm like, all right, what am I gonna do to land? All right, I gotta do lay full fulls next. I want to do this at the comp. Like, there's all these other goals. And so I always have to, I feel like sometimes take a step back and just appreciate that I did it and I'm healthy and good, because I feel like in our elite mindset, sometimes we're just constantly chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and not recognizing the cool things that we're doing in the moment.
So, I mean, I love that. And I think that was a tough question that I gave you, but I loved how you attacked both sides of it, where it's like, you got so much to do, but yeah, you do got to take a step back and appreciate the milestone, right? And Ashley Caldwell's been holding this down for 10 years, right? Without that younger group. And unfortunately, she might be retired. Hopefully we see her again next year coming out and jumping with us. We'll see what the future holds for her. But for you, is there any message you want to send to younger female jumpers, or just younger female skiers in general when they're setting big goals? Because I think aerial skiing is the only sport. Actually, in the X Games last year, the first triple cork was done by a woman, but only sport where women do triples on a regular basis, or are starting to. Is there any message you want to give for younger skiers, like to push them? Was it overblown? Was it underblown? How was the buildup? And what do you want to say to those younger female athletes?
Well, it is tough because there hasn't been that many that have done it. Of course, I'm not the first, and there's been people who have done triples and women, but there hasn't been that many recently. And I feel like when I first started the sport, it was kind of tough because I came into this not as an aerial skier, not as anyone who did any sort of gymnastics background or flips and twists. I had to learn all that from scratch. So I knew how to ski and was confident in that, but flipping and twisting, I learned as I was in the sport. Like, my first double backflip of anything was on skis onto the water ramps, and I landed completely on my face. And so I really was kind of rolling with the punches and learning how to flip, how to twist. And, because I didn't come from that acrobatic background, there was a lot of people who just immediately off the bat told me, you're going to do doubles. Like, that's all you got to do as a woman in aerials. And there was Ashley Caldwell who was doing the triples, but it was kind of the thought that, okay, that's Ashley, but you're not going to do that. You're going to be on triple or on double. And that's what you're going to do for your career. And so I didn't really have that mindset when I first started the sport that I could do triples one day. It wasn't until several years into my career, if not even like
just a few years ago.
Yeah, just like maybe like 3-4 years ago, I'd say, like the thought were, okay, maybe I could do this. I had done them on water years and years ago, just like a couple, but it was more like a fun ladies triples day. It wasn't anything meant to be taken seriously or that we would actually do them.
Do you think with the recent change in our coaching staff, do you think that brought upon a new life to that idea of you going up onto that next level of jumping?
For sure. I think for me, having Vlad become my coach was a bit of a turning point, because then I started doing double ins, I started doing double downs, and started pushing myself on the double, and then having him see that, okay, you could potentially do triples, and giving me that opportunity to try them on water and do a bunch and realize, okay, this is doable, was huge. And I think it's really cool to be able to have a coach who kind of instills that confidence in you. But also I feel like as a team, our whole team has been pushing each other so much over the last couple years. I mean, you guys have been doing quints, Chris has been doing quints, you're getting ready to do quints, and even just like on the girls' side, we've had so many more triple twisting doubles out of our girls, and I think helping push that through supporting each other has been huge over the last couple years.
Yeah, the team dynamic is so great right now. I mean, like, no matter what level, I mean, we have people that are just on their rookie season on the U.S. ski team and on the national team, all the way up to, I think this might be we made it the same year, so what is it, year 9? Something like that. Year 8 or 9 on the U.S. ski team. And so to have veterans mix with those younger athletes, and Quinn, you're right in the middle of that, about year 5, I believe.
Year 5.
So having that nice spread from rookie athletes to veteran athletes, and the expectation isn't necessarily that everybody's going to jump the same or do the same skills or push each other at the same pace, but the expectation is to be the best version of yourself. And like, it sounds a little corny to say, oh, be the best version of yourself, but that means expect the best out of yourself, set big goals. And then I think that what you said speaks so much to how self-expectation can cap off whatever you're going to accomplish more than anybody else's expectations, what you think of yourself. Like you said, like people expecting to stay on the double, but what really kept you on the double and what really maybe hindered that jump a few years earlier in your career was probably that own self-expectation of, this is where I am, this is where I belong. And then once you kind of shatter that, it's like sky's the limit. And we see that with every member of our team pushing themselves, getting better. For personal goals and just setting those big goals, I think is the biggest part of it. If you don't have a big goal, you'll never accomplish anything big. And, you know, I think that our team kind of encapsulates that.
So let's go back and touch on the triple. What was the scariest part?
I'd say the scariest part was the morning of. Because the night before, I was pretty calm and pretty good, and then I had a little point of like anxiousness, but then I did my usual like routine of my stretching, my yoga, my deep breathing, visualization, all that, and it was just like blasting music. And then I got into a calm space, slept fine throughout the night, and then the next morning when I was like warming up and getting ready to go out onto the hill, before I started jumping for the day, I feel like that's the point where I felt the most anxious. Like just this like pit and stomach.
Butterfly.
Yeah, like
that you
it's
can't
like literally
overcome.
Literally just like it's like a stomach but also like heart thing where it's like it's like you're stressed and anxious, but there's nothing you can do about it in the moment. So I was like trying to just listen to music, dance around in my room a little bit, like literally just do anything to like keep moving. Because like going back to my running days, I feel like even now I use like running as a way to calm myself and to get rid of some of that anxiety and anxiousness. So whether that's, now I can't always run because it's kind of taxing on the body, but like spinning or moving, doing some sort of thing where I can kind of release some of that. Yeah, like, and just have some sort of release is really important. And being able to take that and then moving on throughout the day, you know, I did my warm up, got my boots on and everything, then went out on the hill. And as soon as I did the first jump, it started to calm down a little bit, even just the first double, because you're out there, you can actually focus on something. And then as we talked about already, like leading up to it, there was like a little spike of that fear right before stepping into the gate. But all like the anxiousness was definitely in the morning of thinking about it.
Really?
And for me, that kind of is consistent for all of my career. You know, anything I'm nervous about, anxious about, it's like when you can be in the moment, when you can start to feel it and touch it and like look at the jumps and feel the wind on your face and feel the speed checks and just kind of be there, for me, that calms me down versus that mental anguish is when I'm sitting and waiting and thinking and just, you know, getting anxious about it. You've seen me pace in circles and circles and circles just in the apartment before. And then once you get out there, I just feel like it's being active just calms you down. It like lets your heart rate go back to that normal level.
Maybe I'm weird, but I don't get that before the jump. But it's more right before in the gate when I know I'm about to do it, when the hand goes up and I'm like, all right, it's on me.
Oh, shit.
Hop turn. Yeah, the hop turn is the scariest part for me. Some people would be like, oh, it's not when you're in the table looking at the giant jump. No, it's the hardest part. The scariest part for me is the hop turn. So I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Usually I feel like it is the hop turn. And we always say like hop turn is the hardest part. But for some reason,
I literally said that today when you
Yeah.
turned. Like actually, to Peter, our PT, I was sitting down there with him, getting ready to go, and the second you turn your skis, I was like, "She did the hardest part," because after that you're going, and it'll be what it is. But that hop turn is, that's the last point in which you have a choice, and you take it away from yourself as soon as you turn those skis.
But in my head, I was like so committed on already going that for some reason, for this triple, the hop turn actually wasn't that hard. Like it was all the before and like the getting ready, the committing to sliding into the gate, because I knew once I was standing in that gate, I was not pulling out. Like I was gonna go no matter what, even if it took me a couple extra minutes or whatever. But like once you slide into the gate, you're pretty much set. Your coach knows you're about ready, so you need to get pretty much ready to go and not take too much time at that point. But it was like that sliding into the gate. I feel like that was tougher than even turning the skis this time, which was a little different and weird.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's always weird, the nuances of each traumatic moment of our careers. It's like, I say traumatic because they are traumatic. You know, this is our day-to-day job. This is what we wake up and do and travel around the world. And a lot of it is really fun. And a lot of it is, it's it's relaxing, music on, vibes are out, everybody's enjoying each other's company and just jumping. But every once in a while, it's a very traumatic experience. And I feel like you kind of went through the ringer today. Quinn and I talked before, we're just proud of you of how mentally strong you were during it. I mean, if you were nervous, poker face was on today, you didn't show it. And I think that that's how you have to be as an aerial skier or any extreme sports athlete, is like, you got to be able to keep your poker face, and you got to trust that no matter how you're feeling, you're going to go. And, with you, we didn't see, no wiggles in the knees, nothing like that. No, scared face or anything like it. It was straight poker face, all business, and you got it done. And it was a pleasure to watch, really.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Winter, for coming on the podcast and talking about the whole day and all the emotions that were behind it. Chris, any last words?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is we got one more female athlete, Kayla Kuhn, who is going to come up and do her first triple probably in a matter of days or day maybe, and we plan to have her on and do the exact same thing to break it down. The last thing I want to end on, is there anything you're going to do for Kayla that you just like, even in one day's experience, or are you just gonna like let her do her thing and trust her ability or anything like that? Because we try to support you as best you can, but I feel like, and we'd have to talk to Kayla and see how she felt, but watching you do it today, right, if she wasn't already amazingly confident in her ability, I would hope that she gained a little bit from watching you go today. So anything you want to say to her? She probably will not listen to this before she goes, but it's kind of fun. We'll have a little teaser for her. She can listen after she does her first triples.
I mean, I think she's ready too. And I've known Kayla for years and kind of helped bring her into the sport a little bit in a sense. And so it's been cool to see her
Two Michigan girls.
come up. Yeah, 2 Michigan girls from northern Michigan, literally grew up in towns that are just 20 minutes apart. And so it's been really cool to see her kind of push the sport with me as well, and to be able to get more girls up to triple, because as a female athlete, I feel like we don't have that part in us with the guys do, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm the best, like I can do anything. It's like that little bit of self-doubt that I feel like as a female athlete we struggle with a little bit more. So even like we were talking about
Testosterone's
before,
a beautiful thing.
yeah, we don't got that. And even like we were talking about before, you were saying that self-limiting like doubt sometimes is a huge thing in our sport and in any sport. And so for me, even just allowing myself to realize, okay, I can be the best. There's nothing stopping me. Why not me? Like, other people out there are the best, so why can't that be me? And to kind of push those self-doubts aside is really important. So I think for any girls out there, getting rid of that self-doubt is the first step. And part of that comes from surrounding yourself with amazing people who support you, but also just letting yourself take that chance on having those big dreams and say, okay, they may not work out and I might not get there, but that's going to be okay too. And I will know that I pushed myself as hard as I could. And so for Kayla going out there, I think the most important thing is just to believe in herself. And she's done the training. She's done amazing jumps on water. So to go forward and do them on snow, I think will be super cool to watch. And I did them and they were fine. And as soon as I got my skis into the track and was going to the jump, all those feelings came back. So if she has any questions or whatever, that's the biggest thing I'm going to tell her is as soon as she's going into the jump, all the feelings from water will come back and it'll be nice and easy, just like we did.
Yeah, should be excited to get Kayla on here and compare and contrast how you guys felt on your first day and the differences and the nuances. But thanks a lot for hopping on just a few hours after you did it and giving us the rundown.
Yeah, and if you made it to this point in time in the podcast, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.
See ya.